My name is Liam. I was 5 years old when my mother died, and my world changed. My father cried every night. I heard him whisper her name, but he said we must move on. I didn't understand much. I just knew my mother was gone, and I wanted her to come back. But no one comes back from the sky. No matter how long you wait or how hard you cry. A year later, my father remarried. Her name was Rachel, and she moved into our house. She smiled in front of others, acted kind at the table, but her eyes were never warm. I tried to be nice. I said good morning. I helped with dishes. But she never thanked me. She looked at me like I was dirt, like I didn't belong, like I was just a problem to her. At first, I thought it was my fault. Maybe I said something wrong. Maybe I was annoying. But time passed and nothing changed. Her voice was always sharp. Her hugs were fake. She never hit me. But her words were cold. Her silence hurt. Her eyes pushed me away. My father worked long hours, and he didn't see what she was like when he wasn't home. She made me clean the house, sweep the floor, wash the windows before I could eat. If I forgot a spot, she yelled at me, told me I was useless, told me I didn't try enough. She gave her son better food, bought him toys while I got nothing but old clothes. I watched from the corner, feeling like a ghost, like I didn't belong in my own home. One day she threw away my drawing, the one I made for school, said it was ugly trash. I ran to my room and cried alone, held my blanket tight, wished I could disappear. I missed my mother so much. I wished she was there. I wished she could protect me. But all I had were old memories, and a picture that I kept hidden under my pillow. My teacher asked if I was okay. She said I looked tired and my eyes were always sad. I lied and said I was fine. I didn't want anyone to get in trouble. I didn't want more pain. But inside I was breaking, slowly every day, and no one saw the pieces falling down. I stopped talking much at home. I stayed quiet. I tried to avoid her as much as I could. Even when I did well in school, she didn't care. She never said good job or smiled. But when her son did the same, she clapped her hands, kissed his forehead, bought cake. It was hard not to feel jealous, not to wonder why I wasn't loved like that too. I knew I wasn't perfect, but I didn't deserve this. I just wanted to be treated like a child. I waited for weekends just to see my grandmother, the only one who hugged me with love. She made me cookies, told me stories, and said I was smart, kind, and full of light. I wanted to live with her, but my father said no. He said Rachel was trying her best. He didn't see the truth. He didn't know the tears I cried after every long day at home. Days turned into months, and things got worse. My stepmother grew colder. She barely spoke. She blamed me for everything. If something broke, or if dinner was late, she shouted loud. I learned to stay quiet. I walked on eggshells. I kept my head down just to stay safe. I started to count hours, waiting for bedtime, wishing I could sleep forever and forget. Sometimes she locked the kitchen. said I ate too much, even if I skipped lunch at school. I drank water to feel full. I slept with hunger. I dreamed about food. I hated waking up. Her son laughed at me, called me names, pushed my books down, and she never cared. She smiled when he hurt me, told me I was weak, told him I deserved it for being dumb. One evening I broke a glass, my hand was shaking, it slipped and crashed on the floor. She ran into the room, pulled my ear hard, screamed in my face, said I was like my mom. I didn't know what that meant. I only knew it hurt, both her words and the sting inside. She left me crying in the corner while her son watched TV, eating cake with a grin. I stopped bringing friends home. I was too ashamed. I didn't want them to see the truth. At school, I acted normal, but I was tired inside, like my heart was fading little by little. I looked at other kids, saw their happy faces, and wondered how it felt to be wanted. I wished someone would ask, someone would notice, but no one ever really looked close. One time my teacher asked again. She said, "Are you sure?" And I almost told her. But then I thought of Rachel, and how angry she'd be, and how no one would believe me. She always smiled in front of others, spoke sweet words, and made everyone like her. If I said something bad, they'd think I was lying, and she would make me regret it more. My father stayed blind, he worked late nights, came home tired, and barely spoke to me. When I told him I was sad, he said it's a phase, said I needed to grow up and be strong. He didn't see the bruises, he didn't hear the words, he didn't stay long enough to know. He trusted her fully, thought she loved me too, but she never loved me, not for a second. I started writing in secret under my bed, in a small notebook where I poured my pain. I wrote about my mom, about her warm hugs, her soft voice, and how much I missed her. I wrote about the silence, the cold nights, the hunger, the broken toys, and lonely meals. That notebook became my friend, my only space, where I could cry without being judged. One day she found it while cleaning my room, and she read every page with cold eyes. She tore it into pieces, threw it in my face, said I was dramatic, and called me ungrateful. I stood frozen in place. My heart felt heavy, like a rock pulling me deeper into darkness. That night I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, wondering if I'd ever feel joy again. She told my father I was troubled, said I made up stories, said I was seeking attention. He looked at me with confusion, like he didn't know me, like I was someone else. I tried to explain, but my voice shook, and she interrupted, painting me as the villain. He nodded slowly, said I should behave, then walked away, leaving me alone in silence. I knew then I had no one, no hand to hold, no place to run, no love to wait for at home. I grew quiet even more, barely spoke at dinner, and kept my feelings buried inside. I became a shadow in that house, moving softly, breathing gently, trying not to exist. All I wanted was peace, a gentle word, a warm hand, or even just one real smile. But she didn't give smiles. She gave stares and long, cold looks that made me feel small. Her son grew meaner each day, threw my shoes away, broke my toys, called me a rat. When I told her, she laughed and clapped, said boys must fight, said I was just soft. I didn't want to fight. I just wanted love. But love was something I only read in books. Even the holidays were cold. No gifts for me, just chores and fake smiles for guests. She told people I was quiet, said I didn't like gifts, but no one knew the real story. At night I cried into my pillow, careful not to make noise, afraid she might hear me. I counted the stars through the window, wishing one of them could carry me away. I was growing older, but nothing changed. Her heart stayed cold. Her voice stayed sharp. Each morning was heavy. Her words were cruel. Her stares were hard. Her love was fake. She acted sweet in public, wore a gentle face, told good stories, made people believe her. At school, I stayed silent, afraid to speak, afraid to trust, afraid they might find out. She hated when I smiled, hated when I sang, hated when I looked happy for a second. She told me I was stupid, said I'd fail school, said I'd be nothing, just like my mother. Her son watched her closely. He copied her words, copied her hate, and laughed at me. He called me weak daily, stole my pencils, kicked my chair, and she just watched. I tried to ignore him, tried to study more, tried to focus, but it got worse every day. Sometimes he'd push me down, spit on my bag, tear my books, and she'd just smile. Once I fell on the stairs, bruised my knees, and they laughed together like it was a game. No one helped me, not even the teachers, because she was kind in front of everyone. I started staying late after school, sitting in the library, hiding between the shelves. The silence was safe, the books were friends. I could breathe there, I could think. I read about other lives, about strong kids, about people who escaped and grew strong. I dreamed of leaving home, of being free, of waking up without fear or pain again. One day a girl noticed me. Her name was Grace. She had kind eyes and a calm voice. She sat near me quietly, didn't ask too much, just shared her sandwich and smiled. I wanted to cry then, but I didn't. I just said thanks, and for once I felt seen. We met again next day. Shared more words, small laughs, and simple, gentle silence. I told her small things, not the full story, just enough to feel lighter, to breathe easier. She never judged me, never pushed me, just listened, and stayed kind without reason. I waited for those moments, those small talks. They were the only warmth I had all week. At home, things were the same, but I had her now, and that gave me hope to keep going. One afternoon I stayed late. Rain was heavy, the streets were dark, and I walked alone. When I reached the door, Rachel was waiting, her eyes cold, her arms crossed tight. She shouted loud, said I was late, said I was hiding something, said I was no good. She slapped me hard, not just once, and I felt something break quietly inside my chest. I didn't cry that time. I just stood still, looking at her, wondering if she ever felt guilt. But she didn't. She walked away, proud and calm, as if pain was her power over me. That night I didn't sleep. I wrote again. Wrote about leaving, about finding a new life. I made a plan in my head, a small dream, to escape one day and never look back. The weeks passed slowly. School was my shelter, and Grace became my true friend. She told me I was smart, said I was strong, said she saw something good in me. Her words stayed with me. They helped me stand, helped me face each day again. I started to believe a little, believe I was more, believe I deserved a better life. But Rachel noticed the change, saw I smiled more, and she hated it with burning eyes. She asked questions again, searched my room, followed me one day after school. She saw me with Grace, and when I returned home, she waited at the door in silence. She took my phone, broke it fast, said I was forbidden, said I didn't deserve friends. I begged her to stop, told her I did nothing, told her Grace was kind, but she laughed. She told my father lies, said I was out late, said I was rude, said I didn't respect her. He didn't ask me first, didn't check my side. He just looked tired and nodded in silence. He told me to listen, to obey Rachel, to stop making problems, and left the room. I felt like fading again, like turning to dust, like my voice didn't matter at all anymore. But I still saw Grace at school, still read books, still wrote every night under the bed. My notebook grew thicker, full of my dreams, my hopes, my pain, and my truth. It became my mirror, my secret world, where I still believed something good could come. Then came the school contest, a writing prize for a story about hope and courage. Grace pushed me to join, said my story mattered, said the world should hear it too. I almost said no, but then I thought, maybe someone would read and understand. So I cleaned my story, copied it neat, and handed it in with quiet, shaking hands. Weeks passed by fast, the results came in, and they called my name in front of all. I had won the prize. The whole room clapped, and Grace smiled with happy tears. My teacher hugged me, said I had talent, said my words had heart and power. I stood on the stage, looked at their faces, and felt seen for the first time ever. The night after the contest, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the wall, thinking of everything. Rachel didn't say a word. She just looked angry, like my win was a crime to her. She broke my trophy, threw it in the trash, said it was useless, said I was not special. I didn't cry. I picked up the pieces, cleaned them quietly, and smiled deep inside. Grace told her parents. They were proud. They invited me over and treated me kindly. I saw a warm house, saw love in action, saw parents who hugged, who listened and cared. It felt like another world, like a dream where dinner had laughter and peace was real. Her mom packed food, her dad gave books, they asked about school and my dreams. Rachel noticed the changes. She saw my joy, and her anger started to grow each day. She took away my books, burned my pages, locked my door, and shouted for hours. My father stayed quiet, ate his food, and never looked into my eyes anymore. I felt like a ghost again, unwanted and lost, like my voice had no place in that home. But the school asked me to speak in front of parents to share my winning story. I felt nervous inside. My hands were cold. But Grace sat near me and held my hand. When I stood on stage, I saw eyes watching, some curious, some kind, some surprised. I read my story slowly with a steady voice, and people listened in deep silence. My words spoke truth, not names or blame, just feelings of pain, hope, and courage. I said how kids feel unseen, how they hide tears, how words hurt more than hands. I said how one kind person, one smile can save a soul, can change a life forever. When I finished reading, the room clapped loud, and I saw teachers wiping their eyes. After the event, one man came close. He was a journalist, and he liked my words. He asked to interview me, to share my voice, to write about young strength and struggle. I agreed with care, asked him kindly, not to show my name or mention my stepmother. He respected my wish, wrote with warmth, and the article went viral in just 2 days. People online shared it fast, said it touched hearts, said they saw themselves in my words. Some told their stories. Others sent books. Some wrote letters and kind messages. My principal called me in, shook my hand, said I had inspired the whole school. For once I felt proud, not just inside, but from others who saw worth in me. Rachel heard the news, saw my name online, and her face turned red with rage. She screamed that night, broke more things, said I was ungrateful, said I was a liar. She told my dad I had ruined them, said people would judge her, and he believed her. They both took my notebook, tore my clothes, and said I was never allowed out again. They kept me home, no phone or school. They made lies and told the principal I left. But Grace came looking, knocked on doors, and when no one answered, she got help. Her family spoke up, went to the school, and told them I never wanted to leave. The counselor got involved, so did the staff, and they sent someone to check my home. Rachel pretended sweet, said I was sick, said I needed rest, but her mask was cracking. I looked tired and weak, but my eyes told truth, and I stayed silent when they asked. The counselor gave me a paper, told me to write, so I wrote everything in full detail. From the first slap to the last word, I wrote it all, with no fear and no more hiding. They called social services, they read my notes, they took photos and asked more questions. Rachel yelled and cried, played her part, but her son laughed and gave her lies away. He said things too loud, didn't know when to stop, and the truth started slipping out. Soon the officers saw it clear. I wasn't lying, I was trapped, and I needed protection. They took me out that night with only a bag and placed me in a small safe shelter. It was quiet and clean. The bed was soft, and the woman there gave me warm food. She said I was brave, said I had value, and told me that safe days had just begun. I sat on the bed, looked at the wall, and felt my chest breathe light for the first time. Grace visited next day with her parents, too. They brought my books and a warm blanket. She hugged me tight, didn't speak much, but her eyes said everything I needed. Her dad said they'd help, said I could stay, said I deserved to live with peace. The court agreed later. The papers were signed, and I moved to their home with joy. Rachel was gone now. No more cruel eyes, no more shouting, no more fear at night. I had space to grow, time to heal, people who cared, and books that felt like home. Grace and I studied side by side, read our favorite stories, and dreamed together. I started writing again, longer and deeper, with hope instead of only pain. My father never called, never visited, and I stopped waiting for his voice to return. I knew now who loved me, who chose me, who showed up when I was broken. I learned. Family is not blood alone, it's the people who protect your heart each day. I had lost much, but gained more, and I smiled again with full meaning in my eyes. I started to feel peace. My hands stopped shaking, my heart beat slower, and my sleep got better. No more screaming voices, no more cold dinners, no more fear at night, and no more broken things. I walked freely now, smiled with reason, looked at the sky, and felt the sun warm my face. My eyes looked forward, my shoulders were light, I was not scared anymore. I was free again. At school I spoke more. I joined activities, helped other kids, and wrote for the newspaper. Teachers encouraged me, students respected me, Grace always supported me, and I felt proud. I was chosen to represent the school in a big national contest, and I was not afraid. I spoke with calm words, shared my journey, showed my strength, and everyone clapped loud. People came after, they shook my hand, said I gave them hope, and thanked me for my voice. One woman cried, said her son was like me, and that my story opened her heart at last. A man gave me a book, said I reminded him of his past, and he hoped I'd keep writing. The judge of the contest smiled, said I had talent, and gave me a scholarship for college. That night I cried, but it was different. It was soft and warm, not sad and alone anymore. Grace sat beside me, held my hand, and told me I deserved all this and more, too. Her parents clapped for me, made my favorite meal, and said I brought light to their house. I felt part of them, not just as a guest, but as a son, as a person who belonged there. Years passed slowly. I kept growing strong. I wrote every day and shared my voice with many. I visited schools, told young kids my story, listened to theirs, and gave them hope to keep going. Some had bruises, some had silence, Some had pain in their eyes, and I told them they mattered. I told them healing is real. Kindness is powerful, and one good person can change everything. I saw Rachel once in a store downtown. Her face was tired, and her eyes looked cold. She walked past me, didn't speak. But I didn't feel hate. I just felt sad for her soul. She lost more than I did. She lost love, trust, and the chance to be better than her pain. I wished her peace, in my heart quietly, and I walked away with my head held high. My father never came back, never wrote a word, never called my name, and that was okay. I no longer waited, no longer hoped, because I had love from the ones who chose me. Family isn't only blood, it's care, it's effort, it's showing up when you are needed most. I had found that family in Grace and her parents, and I never felt alone again. Now I write books, speak to crowds, travel across cities, and carry my story with pride. I tell people the truth, not to make them sad, but to make them see the light in pain. I tell them we all fall, we all break, but we all can rise again if we believe and try. I tell them a child's heart is soft, but it holds strength, and that kindness always wins. Sometimes I sit alone, remember the rooftop, the silence, the hunger, and the cold rain. But now I smile, not with sadness, but with gratitude, because those days shaped me. I look at the mirror, see a man I respect, a boy who survived, and a soul that forgave. I close my eyes at night and I sleep in peace, knowing that love saved me in the end.